The chandelier cast warm golden light across the marble floors of the Riverside Country Club that evening. It was one of those autumn galas that brought together the city's most prominent families. The kind of gathering where silver-haired gentlemen in perfectly tailored tuxedos mingled with ladies in flowing gowns of emerald and rose. Among the guests was Harold Whitman, a man whose name graced hospital wings and scholarship funds across 3 states. At 72, his hair had turned the color of winter snow, and though his fortune had grown beyond measure over the decades, something in his eyes had grown distant, almost lonely. Harold stood near the grand windows, watching couples waltz to the gentle strains of a string quartet. His chest had been feeling tight lately, a nagging pressure he'd been ignoring for weeks. Tonight it seemed heavier than usual. Moving through the crowd with quiet efficiency was Sarah Chen, a young woman with kind brown eyes and dark hair woven into neat braids. She wore the simple blue shirt and gray apron of the catering staff, carrying herself with the grace of someone who understood that dignity came from within, not from the clothes you wore. Sarah had been working these events for 3 years, putting herself through nursing school. At 28, she'd seen enough of life to know that wealth and happiness weren't always companions, and she'd learned to recognize the subtle signs of loneliness that money couldn't mask. As the evening progressed, Harold found himself struggling to catch his breath. The room seemed to spin slightly, and beads of perspiration formed on his forehead despite the cool air. He tried to steady himself against a nearby table, but his legs buckled beneath him. The sound of his fall echoed across the marble floor like a thunderclap in the elegant room. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Crystal glasses paused halfway to painted lips, and for a moment, the entire gala held its breath. Harold lay motionless in his formal attire, his face pale as moonlight, one hand clutched to his chest. The assembled guests, doctors, lawyers, business leaders, all stood frozen in a circle of uncertainty. Some whispered among themselves. Others fumbled for their phones, but no one moved closer. Then Sarah appeared, dropping her serving tray without a second thought and rushing to Harold's side. She knelt on the cold marble floor, her trained hands immediately checking for a pulse at his neck. Her voice was calm and steady as she called out clear instructions to the stunned crowd. "Someone call 911 now, and please, everyone step back and give us room to breathe." While others watched from a safe distance, Sarah gently loosened Harold's bow tie and opened his shirt collar. She positioned his head carefully, ensuring his airway was clear, and began the rhythmic compression she'd practiced countless times in her training. Her hands worked steadily against his chest. 30 compressions, then 2 gentle breaths. 30 more compressions, 2 more breaths. The room was so quiet, you could hear the whisper of her counting under her breath, the soft rustle of her uniform, the distant sound of sirens growing closer. Harold's eyelids fluttered, and a soft breath escaped his lips. Sarah's face brightened with relief, but she continued her careful monitoring, speaking to him in gentle, reassuring tones. "You're going to be all right, sir. Help is almost here. Just stay with me. Just keep breathing nice and easy." When the paramedics arrived, they found Harold stable and conscious, thanks to Sarah's quick thinking and steady hands. As they prepared to transport him to the hospital, Harold's fingers found Sarah's hand. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the bustle of the emergency team. "Thank you for seeing me." "Really seeing me?" Sarah squeezed his hand gently. "Take care of yourself," she said softly. "The world needs more people like you in it." 3 weeks later, Sarah was surprised to receive an elegant envelope addressed in careful handwriting. Inside was a letter from Harold, written in the quiet of his recovery room. "Dear Sarah," it began, "in all my years I've never experienced such kindness from a stranger. You didn't hesitate. You didn't judge. You simply acted with the pure instinct of a caring heart. You've reminded an old man that humanity's greatest treasures aren't found in bank accounts, but in moments like these, when one human being reaches out to help another." The letter went on to explain that Harold had established a full scholarship fund for Sarah's nursing education, not as payment for her kindness, but as a way of ensuring that her compassionate spirit could touch many more lives in the years to come. But perhaps more precious than any scholarship was the friendship that bloomed between them. Sarah would visit Harold during her breaks from school, and they'd sit in his garden, sharing stories and quiet wisdom. He told her about building his business from nothing, about the loneliness that sometimes comes with success. She shared her dreams of becoming a cardiac nurse, her hopes of making a difference, one patient at a time. Harold learned that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars, but in the connections we make, the kindness we show, and the legacy we leave in the hearts of others. And Sarah discovered that sometimes the most important lessons come not from textbooks, but from the gentle wisdom of those who've walked life's longer path. On quiet evenings, when the autumn light slanted through his study windows, Harold would often think about that night at the gala, not about his heart attack, but about the moment a young woman with braided hair and caring hands reminded him that we're all in this together. That in our deepest moments of need, kindness has the power to heal more than just our bodies. It can heal our spirits, too.